Welcome to the Vincier Project, an H-hour production where we help people become more skilled, more competent, and more brave when they're facing the most difficult circumstances of their life. I hope you enjoy our podcast. All right, the Vincier Project, we're back at it. Coming off a little break, a little vacation for the merry. Vince is number one, and take a little trip, a little break, check in, take a time out. I think it's so important. I think a lot of our friends and family that travel would say that. And even if people don't travel, I think they appreciate the idea of it. Some people don't like to travel. I understand that too. I don't identify with it. I kind of struggle to reconcile that. I'm all about the adventure, going all sorts of places, and I think about my global experience. The only two times I really thought like I was definitely 100% not safe were there were a handful of times in Kensington, Philadelphia when I was using drugs. Because I was involved with people and things and the circumstances of, and the amounts of money were enough for bad stuff to happen. Like the minute you cross a threshold in the street, especially when you're in the trenches, you do enter a place where like the legit fear of severe physical violence is 100% real. And you have to be willing to be complicit in that and or pose the threat of and be willing to follow through on that. So yeah, Kensington, Philadelphia using drugs. There's other cities I'm sure people have out there they can point to, whatever. That's my experience. But Kensington, Philadelphia is very, very much a dangerous place if you're there doing the wrong things. Alternatively, if you're not, I would bet you just stay the course, go where you're going, do what you're doing. I would bet nobody messes with you. You're going to roam into it at some point, but I bet there's ways to avoid it. Not an easy task. And then Bamako, Mali, rolling around with a master sergeant from 110 Special Forces, right? 10 Special Forces group. Just him and I doing civil reconnaissance, cruising through Bamako, Mali in the SUV. We end up in a market down in the middle of Bamako, right? We're looking at roads and hospitals and all that stuff. And next thing you know, we're looking at the market. We get out, we're walking around. You see all the Al-Qaeda propaganda up on the walls and T-shirts and literature and the books, things like that. It's a little unsettling. Death to America kind of stuff, right? So kind of looking like NGOs, but not really. It's not low vis work, right? I'm not James Bond. That would be misleading. But we're out there, right? We're just in civilian attire, kind of mixing in and doing our thing. And the call to prayer goes out. And mind you, in 2004, the year before, I was in Iraq and Somalia. We were in some significant combat. Like that was definitely involved in some significant OIF2 combat in Samar in the middle of Saladin province, right? That's part of it, right? Not quite a crusade, but it was nice to just do some reminding for Saladin's descendants, kind of. It is. Anyway, that's my stuff. So anyway, Bamako, Mali, but yeah, the call to prayer goes out and then the mosques are emptying, right? And look, they're coming out in their man dresses and all that stuff. And the reality is like there's a lot of them, right? And it's just me and this dude. You could tell, he's more experienced. I look over and glance. You can tell he has a heightened sense right away. So it's just measuring. In your environment, you're like, hey, we gotta get out of here. We have to go. Yeah, but Kensington, Bamako area, even in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, look. I don't think I'd necessarily go back to Kunar province solo on a mission like these idiots do on social media, or they act like it's all cool beans. I just don't think I would do that. I wouldn't take my family there necessarily. But there's parts of Iraq I think I might revisit. Do think that I don't getting there might be a huge pain in the neck, but I do think there's onesie twosie spots. I also think there's parts of Afghanistan I bet you could go to near Kabul and stuff like that at this point. If you're there just doing the right thing, they're gonna follow you around and watch you, and if you step out of line, they're gonna throw you into the YouTubes, cut your head off. Right? It's just a different world. You got to know how to operate in that space. But travel, right? The importance of it, breaking the patterns, the habits, and Hollywood, Florida for us, man, it's a good measurement of the last. We've gone there 4 times in the last decade and kind of looking around and assessing and seeing and how have we changed? What's changed? What could we do better? How have we improved? How have we not improved? And, my wife and I realized it's like, hey, it's not a straight line, but I remember, I remember going down there on a different kind of budget. I remember going down there with some money and not some money. And it's a good way to break the pattern too. And here's the fun thing about Hollywood is like, nobody speaks English. So yeah, you're in a state of the United States, but it's the Latin America capital of the world, actually, in my opinion. Miami maybe is, but that's kind of what you get. I mean, everybody from Israelis to Italians, French Canadians, Germans, local yokels, right? All kinds of shades of local yokel. And then every Latin American country on the face of the earth represents there. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm not mad about it. I mean, I'm a Ruiz, right? Like I love that. Right? Like it's a good look, the diversity, all of the stuff. But we want the actual engineers and doctors. And I think that's what Florida allows. And Florida's infested with a lot of scammers and manipulators, liar cheats. It's like God took the earth and shook it upside down. All the crap went down to South Florida in some ways too. Right. So you have that balance. It's a juggling act of picking and choosing what you want there. So fun place to visit. Wouldn't want to raise my kids there. right? I'm sure people do. I'm sure it's fine. Just not kind of my speed. I'm more of a suburban kitty at this point. I think that's just kind of what Mary and I come to. So I'm not telling anybody what to do or recommending. It's just I think you have to make the best intentions and then decisively act on the best intentions you've made for you, your family, right? That's what we're talked about. But and change, right? Because you think about it, Florida wasn't always that, right? 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, it's evolved quickly, right? And what does it look like in 40, 50, 60 years? It could be better. It could be a lot better for you, right? You don't know that. And yeah. But the culture of respect, I think that's the part in the travel, right? It's how like, dude, if you were to listen to social media, it wouldn't be the appropriate application or platform to express yourself, adventure, or go see the world, right? Like Fox would tell you one thing, Santa would tell you the other. And I think that's what Mary and I talk about. It's like we go and travel and we manifest and look, we calculate, hey, look, where else could we go? What else could we do? And she's like, oh, I'd love to go here and there. Whatever. And me, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to go to like Palestine, Israel, that border. Kind of want to see what's going on south of Sudan. I'd love to get to Iran. I'm obsessed. Like, I feel like I got to Afghanistan and Iraq, which is awesome. But I feel like I got cheated because I didn't get Iraq. I could tell with a lot of Shias, a lot of Iranians at points, but I never got to go to Iran. You know, something to that. That's my stuff. I want to go to Ukraine, maybe. I don't know. El Salvador next. I think I'm hoodwinking one of my battles into going to El Salvador and recon. Maybe we'll surf. Maybe we won't. We'll see. Maybe he'll find a sixth wife. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I'm reconning. I'm gonna go recon. I think El Salvador is on the book, but that's my stuff, man. It's all my stuff. Yeah, experiential learning. I think that's what travel does, though. I mean, once you start seeing the world, it doesn't limit you to a myopic perspective of your immediate environment. Become more accepting, understanding, and appreciative of cultures. But for me, yeah, Kensington and Bamako, Mali, out of all the places I've ever been. Yeah. And it's maybe because of what I was doing there, right? Like those are high risk endeavors, right? In the in-country briefing, you go into Africa, they definitely give you a brief of like, hey, here's the rules of the game, what the expectation is, right? Like you're definitely on your own for a bit if something happens. And in Philly, you're definitely on your own. Right? When you're struggling with drugs, stuff like that. So I share those two perspectives as it's where I draw all my empathy from. I know what it's like to be scared and fearful and understanding all those things. And I can't say that I really roam the world in that space, but it doesn't mean I'm not aware of any danger that I'm in, right? And I think that's it is, high risk situations, and you have to be willing if you're gonna to play high risk games. So that transitions to the other phase, right? It's like Mary and I going back and forth, like the business stuff, and we're just having fun, man. We're helping people. We're getting to help people and serve in different capacities and over deliver. And I think it's a beautiful thing. We feel like we have people that we get to support and be in the trenches with them, at least hold space for them in an educational or emotional capacity. And we're building stuff on top of that. And that's the vertical maybe, which you don't know, right? It's like, how do you measure that? Man, I'm trying to figure it out. If anybody here has suggestions, I'll turn the books over to you. You could tell me, how do I equate what's happening on paper into the air? Or is it just like people think it's some form of mysticism? Like, hey, what do they do? Like, it's not at all, right? It's consultation. It's finding a place that's safe and protected, and you can process and talk about those things. That like, hey, if I'm walking on a street in Europe and I see a gang of Moroccans, hey, I'm heightened. Hey, if I'm walking through Guatemala and I see MS-13 dudes or something, whatever, like, yeah, I have a heightened sense. If I'm in Rome and I see a gaggle of gypsies, yeah, I'm heightened, right? So, but the Bedouins roam around the Middle East just the same. It's the same thing. Your environment is going to teach you where you have to be. You have people that will take advantage of you right here in the United States, and they exist, right? Some of them will do it in a way that you don't even get the payoff for the fear. You sign the document, the bad interest rate, and the terrible terms of agreement, or out of desperation, and that's predatory behavior. It's the same, except the United States has formed a very sophisticated way to do it and stratified it. It's a beautiful thing if you choose to keep playing levels of the game. Right? Like I never have to go into the street again. I never have to be in a robbery situation, dealing drugs, crossing borders, guns, on either side of it. Because if you're out robbing people, you can definitely get robbed. You're involved in that. You become a target. And it's going to come from a place either really close to you or somebody you don't even know. Or it's through somebody close to you, and then it's through somebody you don't know. So those are the games. That's the darkness. And Iraq, same thing, right? And you're working overseas, Afghanistan, you're got a bag of money, and you're trying to leverage that money as a U.S. foreign policy and get information to hand off to the people that are going to snatch whoever or gather more data and information about the things. Mary and I share business the same way, right? It's like it's all operational, workflow, informational flow. We're flexible. We'll run a counterinsurgency one day and then flip the switch and turn it over to a rolling thunder. And I think we're entering a season of rolling thunder here. It's just a matter of what happens with this AI thing bubble, right? Because here's the thing, man. It's like, it might not even be a bubble in terms of a business aspect perspective. Like it could just be something that nobody's ever seen before, right? The assumption is because the experts would tell you, is like historical data points would tell us this is what's going to happen next in the world. I think it's more observational and behavioral. Like I just talk to people individually and I see what things have changed and how people travel and what that looks like and feels like. And when people are generally doing one thing, you have to consider attacking the other way, even though it's fearful and it can be scary. But I think we're in that weird space where it's going to be a really target rich opportunity. And I think that'll be for almost a decade. I think it'll stretch out over a long time. It's because that liquidity has to get dispersed again. Right, it can never be hoarded. So however that's impacted, right, and however that flows, that's the beauty of America. The most wealthy and the rich and the people operate from a place of power reserve the right to be benevolent. And the dynamic part is back to that travel for the mind thing. As Mary and I were talking about that, is like people assume it's automatically who has the guns and the bombs in those countries. And I would say, no, I think it's the people that have the networks and connections that extend to past borders, right? Because if you look at it through a global lens and filter, right, if all the world fell apart, you'd rather show up with a bank account full of Bitcoin if you're in the right country. And it's the doom and gloom proposition. So there's a little bit of wargaming, Mary Vince, how we think about things, but we build long runways for American citizens. We get to help people. We're going to keep doing that aggressively and going into the fall, right? We're going to the fall. We look at it as we're in training camp right now. The workouts get a little harder. Mary came out on our retreat run, our family retreat run in Florida, and out there waiting formation, and starting to drizzle a little bit, and she walks out. She doesn't say anything. She just gives me a thumbs up and she goes, follow me, right? And big arm wave, follow me. And then she takes off sprinting. Like she's warmed up and running. I've been just sitting there, finishing my coffee. And we break into a sprint and start going on our little company run. We do the same thing with our kids. We do it with our dog, right? You got to take lead. When you're in charge, be in charge, right? And follow me. Yeah, that's what you're setting the standard for your kids. Follow me. Whatever you do, everything you do, lay on the couch, follow me. Going to the gym, do heavy squats, follow me. Investing, follow me. Spending money frivolously, follow me. Manicure and healthcare, taking interest, not curiosity in your relationships. The minute I feel that somebody's curious in my life, they stop getting the show. But the people that are interested, man, I'm an open book. So the podcast is more about curiosity for clients and people to hear about the internal workings, how we do things. So getting, there's a limitation to access, right? Because it's valuable. My clients believe that. I want to over deliver them. The price to talk to Vince is it's a mid-level Yankee ticket at this point, right? So I got to be as good as Kid Lombard's going to be. That's how I look at it. If not better, because otherwise their attention's going to go to the Yankees, and I got to give them attention on things that are working. Do it through thinking, feeling, emotions, behaviors, good modeling, tactics, techniques, and strategies to improve lifespan. That's what we're about. Yeah, Hollywood, Florida, man. Who would have thought? Nice little continuum of time. But yeah, South Florida. If you need to be out of the country, but you don't want to leave the country, go to South Florida. And if you don't want to travel, do too. That's good too. All right, we're done. I'll see you all in a week. It'll be good.